Welcome, everybody. Today, with me on our Toolbox Talk is Mike Wiedmeyer, the Executive Director of the Underground Contractors Association of Illinois. We're pleased to have you with us today, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to jump on and listen.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the economy for the construction industry and all that. But before we get into that, I know you're running up at, what, 7 years now with the UCA? Is that correct?
Yeah, this August I'll be 7 years. Prior to that, over 23 years in the industry. Really longer than that, but in the sewer and water end of it for over 23 years prior to that. And love what I do and love being involved. And and getting here was kind of an extension of that. That's how I ended up at UCA. Was being on industry boards for over 16 years, management trustee on funds, and I'm glad some folks in the industry asked me if I'd be interested in applying for the position, and still thank them today for it because I love it.
Excellent. Very good. Well, so just briefly before we actually jump right in, I'm going to share some information I have up here. And this is just kind of in a nutshell, kind of Julie as we see it. And the blue bands, without getting really into the weeds here, this is what we call our MUCHO report, and it's municipal, utility, contractor, homeowner, and other. And the two blue bands are April and May 19 and 20 compared, and you can see on the municipal side, it's down 32% in April, utilities down 5.6, contractors down 13, homeowners had a huge jump. But overall, month over month, year to year, we were 9.8% down in our total volume in May. Along the same trends, although utilities dropped dramatically more, contractors actually dropped a little less, so they ticked up slightly, but the homeowners went through the roof. Year to date through the end of May, you can see the numbers yourselves there at the bottom. So, we're looking at a very global picture. This doesn't necessarily mean anything one way or the other. Utilities may have actually scheduled less work this year. We don't know. But it's just something that we look at to kind of for us to prognosticate a little bit about how things are going. So with that, Mike, we'll get into kind of what we brought you on today, and that's to look at kind of the economic impact of this. And I guess, kind of start at the top and work our way down a bit, looking at the state level, the IDOTs and that, what are you hearing?
So, well, as far as IDOT funding goes, nationwide and in Illinois, April in particular, March started the downward trend because about mid-March is when in Illinois, when the even before the shelter in order or shelter in place order went into effect on March 20th, people had already stopped. I'm sure a lot of folks on the call had seen the office here that week before. It was the parking lot was a ghost town, and so was the building. So people started to on their own work from home and avoid getting together in groups. And then April was really a hard hit in the state and nationally. Tollway revenues were down like 60% and in April, and pretty much courted the same with IDOT, the MFT, which is the motor fuel tax.
Right.
So with this being the beginning of June, stats have been rolling in the last day for May. So in May, the MFT was down 33%, which is still not good, but it's a lot better. So you can see things are trending back up, and expect to see the same through the summer. IDOT last year, or I shouldn't say IDOT, last year the state of Illinois passed the capital bill, which had doubled the motor fuel tax. And accordingly, the IDOT budget was as part of their multi-year program, the MYP had doubled for 2020. But with the motor fuel tax down, there could be some reductions. But here's what I've gotten to date. So the Transportation for Illinois Coalition, which is also known as the TFIC, which UCA is a member of, from Jennifer Morrison in conversations with IDOT Secretary Omar. Basically what they're looking at for this year is, at this point, is they're estimating for the year 30% reduction, or I should say over 18 months, a 30% reduction in expected revenues. But their annual program is routinely 50% less at the conclusion of the year than was originally planned due to the natural course of construction work. So the real shortfall would be closer to 15% in what they're calculating. And in addition, there's still hope that in this final, the fifth phase of the COVID relief bill from the federal government, that there'll be something in there for state DOTs to help make up for the shortfall. And we're also at that point where there's the reauthorization, which we'll talk for the transportation program at the federal level. So
Right.
It expires here at the end of 2020, which is September. So,
Right.
they
And
are
IDOT's
year
fiscal year is July. Is that correct?
the state fiscal year is July
Okay.
1st.
So the impact on the revenue that's come in over the last few months, luckily, this didn't happen in August of last year and go for 6 months. I mean, so it's going to have an impact, but it's not as dramatic because it happened at the end of the fiscal year, so they, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Do you project the tollway is going to be kind of in the exact same boat?
The tollway actually, their revenues are down, but in talking with counterparts in the industry and the road builders down in Springfield at TFIC and so far the tollway hasn't pulled back on their plan that they have for this year. So
Right.
It remains to be seen if they do for next year, but so far they're moving full steam ahead.
Good.
And that's obviously some of the major stuff is the reconstruction of 294. And the good news is they finally came to an agreement of, with, it was about $250 million. I'm sure a lot of folks have seen it recently, to finally get the 490 going in the agreements with the railroads.
Right.
So that'll hopefully be coming up, which then also includes the finishing of the extension of 390 as well.
Okay. Yeah. So from there, then, there's also other budgets at the state level and sharing with municipalities and everything else. The CDB, what is it and what does that look like to you?
CDB is the Capital Development Board. And so far, and a lot of their funding, they too were authorized or part of the capital bill last year.
Right.
And a lot of their funding was coming from the expanded gaming, like the Chicago Casino, the one in Rockford, the sports betting, and also expansion of the slot machines. And needless to say, those have all, there's been no sports to bet. There's been, nobody going out, and the bars have been closed everywhere else where they have the machines, and and the casinos aren't built yet. There are bonding components to both the transportation side as well as with the vertical side for the Capital Development Board. But so far really haven't heard a lot as to what the CDB is going to be doing, if they're going to be cutting back, if they're holding off, or if they're going to use the bonding issues and get work going and hope for the revenues at a later date. But they have a meeting coming up on June 11th, and hopefully we'll have more then. But really haven't heard a lot of what the plan is at this point with the CDB. But it's clear that the funding stream that was going to be used to lift up and really jumpstart the capital program for the CDB. And just so everybody knows, CDB, it's all this, in any state buildings, whether it's state-owned hospitals, veterans homes, state buildings, the Capitol building, anything like that, and also they can, the universities and school districts as well.
Right, right. And something to remind everybody on with us today, Mike doesn't have any magic wand to affect the economy or anything like that. He's sharing information that is publicly available or through his contacts in the various organizations. So don't anybody go out and buy any Lamborghini tomorrow based on our conversation today, or avoid buying the Lamborghini tomorrow based on our conversation. This is just, we're trying to paint a picture of what we see, what Mike's been able to gather, and what both through, to your point, COVID-5, whatever, what the feds might end up doing to help with some of the revolving funds that the states have available to them. So again, this is just kind of an overview of what we've seen and what may be coming in the near future to help assist some of these things moving forward. Going on from there, then, everything's trickle down, right? So the municipals themselves, obviously, they're having revenue shortages as well. When we talked earlier, you had mentioned something about Algonquin, because you had been able to talk with them a little bit, and they have a not unlike a lot of municipals, but a little different than some of the smaller ones in the state, where they do have a pretty firm revenue base on some of their local industry, which of course has been impacted by COVID. So what, from the municipal perspective, what does it look like to you?
So, and I've talked to, not everybody, and it's not, one size fits all, but
Right.
in talking, especially the communities that are heavily reliant on the retail sales tax in their
Right.
communities, which Algonquin is one. If anybody's, everybody that's familiar with Algonquin knows that huge Randall Road shopping corridor that they have out there, the restaurants, everything else. So, they're definitely off on the revenues. And I was speaking to somebody on the board down in Chicago Ridge, and they have a regional mall there, and they were projecting a $2 million sales tax revenue loss for a community of a little over 14,000. So
Wow.
some of those communities are really going to be hard hit, much more so than others that aren't as reliant on the industries that were shut down. And of course, if you got a Walmart or a Costco or something there, and they were open, or grocery stores, any of the grocery sales, and that, of course, there's really not much tax on that.
Right.
So,
Right.
so,
And so, but the state's offering a program or a grant program for.
yeah. So, I talked to Bob Mitchard. He's the Public Works Director of Algonquin, and he is also heavily involved, past president of one of the chapters for the American Public Works Association, the Fox Valley branch. And so, he's a pretty, I've known him for a long time, well before I got here. And he said that they were planning. So a lot of the sewer and water in the municipal projects aren't going to be as affected as maybe, say, their road programs, which would rely more on state and federal funding, along with local sales tax revenues to support whatever they're doing. So, they had a $40 million program approximately going forward this year. And initially they thought the road end of it was going to be hit, but then, as Dave has on the screen, the funding availability and the Rebuild Illinois Public Infrastructure Program, the 50 million may not sound like a lot, or the 25 million that's being fast tracked, but he said they applied for it, and they got it, and they're going to be able to continue with their full road program this year. And as far as their their sewer and water projects go, they had applied for. Municipalities have a lot of options. They can pay for it with other revenues and fees. They pay for it with their sewer and water fees collected, and they can also issue bonding, or the main thing is to take advantage of the SRF, which is the state revolving fund, which is they get the state of Illinois, the IEPA gets the funding from the federal EPA each year, and it's something that we'll get into a little deeper here shortly. But so yeah, I mean, this is one of the villages is going pretty strong. I do suspect that a lot of municipalities will be cutting back if the funds aren't made available from the state or federal government with some of their, doesn't mean all, but maybe cutting back. Some of them may cut back more or eliminate completely, and some like Algonquin that are acting swiftly may not see any or much fall off on what they have going on.
Right. And so that kind of leads us into that federal funding, the state revolving fund. The EPA is doing some work there, trying to get money out for some of those, like sewer and water projects, things like that. And I'm going to flash this real quick. It's nothing we're going to read, but just to show you what's up there. The EPA has announced, that they're going to do a $2.7 billion for infrastructure to protect surface waters and drinking water. And of course, that's going to become part of, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, that'll become part of that revolving fund. Is that correct?
Yes. So the revolving funds had been running well behind what they were in the 80s under Reagan. Just the clean water alone was running about a $4.5 billion program. And again, that money goes through the EPA and down to and is divided up in whatever the formula is to the state EPAs, and then it's administered from there, where the water, the municipalities or the water and sewer providers put together their engineering and their needs analysis, send it down to the EPA, and then the EPA decides along with their estimated cost analysis, and then the EPA decides prioritizes and then distributes the funds. And that's a 30-year low interest loan, extremely low interest loan program,
right,
for any of those folks. And it's a great program because i.e. the revolving fund is that as the money gets paid back, it goes back to the state revolving fund, and then the money's there to then reissue. So over the years, the program keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, the loan program. And again, the funds actually come back. So it's not just a pure, it goes out, they do need to pay them back through, over the term of the loan. And,
right.
And most of them are paying for it by raising their user fees. So Mitchard from Algonquin had said they had done I think he said they were in their last year of their program of increases, but instead of doing one lump at once, they did it over a 4 or 5 year period, where they increased the rates 20%, 25%, rather than where I live, where they increased them 300% in 1 year. So.
And that'll get your attention really quickly.
So
briefly, because we've got a few more things to hit on, and we're getting close on time. Chicago, they got their big sewer and water project that they were doing, and it kind of came to a halt to some extent with the COVID issues. You hearing that's going to kick back in and move along, or?
Well, actually, for on the sewer and water side for Chicago, the bids went out, I believe it was October, for their sewer and water program that they've had ongoing that started under Mayor Emanuel. And I spoke with UCA member Kevin Carpenter of DB Sterling, who they're a consulting engineer for Chicago. And the 4 projects that were bid in October were finally let and released in May. So and those projects are $2 to $4 million each. And then he said there are 6 projects bid in March that will be released in October to November timeframe, and then sometime in the third quarter there'll be 12 more projects advertised ranging in value from 2 to 6 million each. So, in Chicago, it also is utilizing the state revolving fund
Right.
to help pay for all the improvements. And
Right. And of course, we can't talk about Chicago without talking about O'Hare.
So there was on May 19th, the CDA CMAR COVID-19 update meeting. It was just a brief update on where all the CMARs are at, and at O'Hare, and according to them, work's continuing. Everything's progressing with no intention of slowing down the work on O'Hare 21 at this point.
Right.
Like some of the we haven't mentioned, but and I'm sure folks have heard, but they've been taking advantage of the lack of people on the road to actually fast track some of the road programs, and the same thing's been going on at O'Hare too. They really pushed without having all the planes and that taking off, landing, taxiing, and people in the terminals and that and around the O'Hare to keep some things going. So, but the reality is that a great portion of the work that's going to be done for the expansion was being paid for by the likes of United and American and some of the other airlines.
Right.
And boy, I don't know. They did get in one of the earlier packages, both O'Hare and Midway did get some federal funding, which I think they're probably using at this point to keep things going. But I don't know how long it's going to keep going and at what pace. And in fact, I was on a call yesterday with City of Chicago and some of my counterparts, and the one consultant from Chicago just kind of shook their head and said, they're going at it, but I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep going at the pace they are unless they replace the original intended funding. So,
right.
So, kind of like everything else, glass half full, glass half empty.
Okay. So real briefly, we kind of already touched on it a little bit, but the federal funding for transportation, that of course is all up in the air based on, what they're going to do with replacing lost funds. But talking to your folks with the RTVA and things like that, what are you hearing about that?
There's certainly the full court press on the Fed. They've been talking for over 10 years now. Was both parties during the last presidential election, along with after the fact, have been identifying and talking about their 1 trillion or 2 trillion, depending on the day, comprehensive federal infrastructure bill, which would cover everything from underground to surface transportation, waterways, aviation, everything.
Right.
So that's the big wild card in all of this, and the ATR, the American Road and Transportation Builders Association Chairman Steve McGow, has been very specific, along with AASHTO, which is, don't ask, it's the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials or something.
Right.
A lot of acronyms there, but and pointing out that it took from 2008 to 2015 through and after the Great Recession to get back to the funding levels of 2007.
Right.
So we can't let the point is the urgency is here and it's now, and we can't let that happen, or it's going to cost a heck of a lot more later. And and the infrastructure is, that's the lifeblood of commerce. So
right. Well, and that's part of the problem, I think, in
so
all.
there is a big push.
Yeah, in all aspects of this. Some people are
Dave,
trying
your
to say
mic's
that.
off.
Is it? Says it's on. Can you hear me now? Hello.
unless it's just mine.
Oh, maybe your speaker? I don't know. All right. Well, so can you hear me at all? Yeah, I've got other people in the chat saying it's on. They're hearing me. Yeah, everybody's saying they can hear me, Mike, so it's got to be you. So here's what we're going to do. Mike can't hear me, but he
Can
knows
you hear
where
me? Give me a
I can.
thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes, I
I
can
don't know.
hear you.
Something's going on my end then.
Yeah. So let's just go, and Mike will recognize this and can speak to it, I hope.
So I'm going to keep talking. The home building, that's definitely an area that was severely impacted. There was talking to members, a lot of their major home building, some of them are national home builders, shut down immediately in March. Any new capital development, a lot of that was based off of their experience of the Great Recession, when they kept developing properties thinking that it was going to be short term and and that they were going to be right back in the frantic sales and building pace that they had been experiencing. So some of them have since restarted their capital investment. Others have said that they're going to wait until 2021 unless sales pick up significantly. And even talking with some of our members that do for the individual houses when they're being built, the sewer and water service connections, they had said that this was going to be the year finally a recovery in the housing market in Illinois. Almost over 12 years, 13 years, and and then this happened. So the good news is that they were still selling houses, just not at the pace that they were prior to mid-March, and the interest rates are historically low at this point.
Whoops.
So just something. If you want to move on, Dave.
Yeah.
On the office and retail market, my initial thought was that in talking with some folks that they were not going to be, some had said that they realized that their folks could work at home just as efficiently, and that they were probably going to get rid of some of their satellite offices, but yet in talking with folks over at BOMA, which is the Building Office Managers Association, they said that things had been trending towards over the years towards a much more a smaller footprint for the folks. In other words, not the big private offices. Everybody's being jammed into cubicles and smaller spaces. And what this is going to do, and they've already had, although their activity was very slow, things started to pick up in March, and a lot of them are inquiring actually about, instead of reducing space, expanding their footprint so that they can spread their offices out more. And there's certainly going to be people, a lot more folks working from home, but that doesn't mean that, it may be more of a shift that instead of every day of the week that they're going to be working from home for, a couple days of the week, 2 or 3, and then in the office, because they don't want to get to a point where everybody's, not in contact because of, the camaraderie and the innovation that happens when folks get together. So, we'll see what happens. The other thing is that, things have been trending, think McDonald's and some of the other major corporations from the suburbs have been trending back into the city. And now they said it's going to start trending back out again because they don't want to have their employees having to worry about, taking public transportation and that. So,
So Mike, can you hear me now
just
at
real
all?
quick, commercial industrial side, obviously with a lot of people shopping from home, things may stay fairly robust. There may be some downturns on that, but The office warehouse space definitely, I'm hearing from folks are still seeing the plan. So, so from there, Dave, I can't hear you, so I'll let you guys go.
All right, so we're just over 9 o'clock right now, which is fine. I haven't gotten any audience questions, which is okay. There's a lot of information here and everything else. So typically I would ask Mike for any final thoughts, but he's not hearing me. Apparently, from everything that I'm seeing, everybody hears both of us, but he's not hearing me. So what I brought on with me today then is Lauren, who is Mike's associate director with the UCA, and if you had any final thoughts, and then we'll talk about the UCA proper for a second. Any final thoughts on what Mike's had to say today?
I think he touched on a lot of really important topics. I think it's going to be very interesting to see where this takes us, and I really do, at the end of the day, hope that this is going to be we can come out of this in a positive light for the construction industry. Like Mike was saying, hopefully this does shine a little bit of light on not just safety aspects, but how we as an industry can really pull through right now and help our economy. If we do see a federal infrastructure package, it really could be a great thing, not just for us, but for the economy as a whole, for the country.
Excellent, very good. So now what I'd like to do, Lauren, is offer you a 30-second commercial here about the UCA, and you should be seeing your website up there right now.
Yeah, so as you can see, we do in the upper right-hand corner have a resource portal for strictly COVID-19 resources. This is a great resource portal for labor, legislative, insurance updates, just updates from some of our associate members, our contractors, etc. So we've been taking and collecting any of the information that we've been able to and putting it in one place for our members. So that's where you can find that there. Underneath that, you will see our Emerging Leaders Program. We have registration open for our 3rd year of our Emerging Leaders Program. We cap it at 20 registrants per season to keep the class small and so they can form real relationships in the industry. So we do have an informational introduction to the Emerging Leaders Program, a Zoom webinar coming up on June 18th. So if anyone's interested in that, that would be great. Overall, I know that we've thrown a lot of information at you today, but if you are interested in any of it, please know that UCA is offering discounted memberships for the remainder of the year. So that's $350 for an associate and $500 for a contractor. Now could not be a better time to join. Our golf outing has been pushed back to September 2nd. We've moved our trade show and combined it with our annual business meeting, and that's scheduled for October 1st. So really, you will still get to see and attend a lot of our events that would be happening in the beginning of the year. So again, we do have a lot of resources here. In addition to that, we do have our own safety risk management utility meeting coming up. That's a Zoom meeting, so anyone is welcome to join in on that. That is scheduled for June 11th. But yeah, if you're looking for resources or if you just have any questions, feel free to hit that contact us button on the UCA website, and that'll send it right to Mike or myself. But yeah, that's about it.
And full disclosure, I co-chair the Safety Utility Committee at the UCA. Organizations like the UCA, as well as many others that some of you still on with us, it says I'm paused my sharing. Oh, because I shared the wrong screen. Bear with me, folks. I want to leave up the contact information for Lauren and Mike, and Mike is back on with us. But organizations such as the UCA and others that some of you may belong to, these are the focus of these organizations is education about a myriad of things, whether it's safety or excavation practices, whether it's this financial aspect, whether it's legislative. These things are all what becoming a part of an organization affords you. It allows us to be able to communicate with each other. And the thing that's impressed me most being part of the safety committee with the UCA, as well as the Greater Chicago Damage Prevention Council, which I participate in that as well, is these safety folks coming into these meetings. It's a really fantastic thing to watch them take off their company's hat, and they're willing to share the methods or the practices to keep your people safe. They're competitive when they're bidding, but when it comes to safety, all competition goes out the window. They want to ensure that everybody's together. And so these organizations are what help us get that additional information, the information outside of our own wheelhouse that maybe we hadn't seen or thought about. So I encourage you to take a look at the UCA site. Again, the safety meetings, the Zoom meetings, open meeting, you can come in, check it out, see if you recognize any value to that meeting itself. And of course, Lauren and Michael are more than happy to answer any other questions you might have. So Michael, I kind of let Lauren hit the final thought there, but do you have anything about 1 minute or less?
Yep, I just wanted to, say to everybody, we're certainly not going to be where we thought we were going to be when 2020 started. Things were very optimistic, but is it you can look at it, is it a glass half full or a glass half empty? And it's not as bad as it could be either. So we just have to hope that things just from here forward keep trending upwards, that we don't have another shutdown. And and a lot of what I'm seeing and with folks I'm talking to is we may have if things keep ramping up, it's going to be 9 months to a year, and it doesn't mean it'll be exactly where they're at, but it's going to take some time to dig out. It won't happen in a day.
Right.
And please reach out. That legislation and advocacy is a big part of UCA. And I don't know if Lauren covered that or not, because I couldn't hear for a while there. But now's the time to be reaching out to local, state, and your federal legislators, and that's something that if you reach out to Lauren and I, we can give you the link to look up and get their information, so you can contact them and ask them to make sure that they keep the actions moving forward to help with recovery.
And again, if you're shy or looking for talking points too, Mike and I are happy to help with that. We can send you some bullet points too that you can speak with your legislators about.
And they do have what they call the pipeline that they send out each week, which always has legislative issues, OSHA issues, COVID legal issues. I mean, it's very topical. It's very timely. And again, does give you links to a lot of that stuff. So Mike and Lauren, I cannot thank you enough for taking your time today to be out here with us and providing the information that you did. It's fantastic. Again, all of this is available publicly. Mike's not the magic man, but he knows where to get the magic, and that's what counts. Because for me to have gathered all this, yeah, we'd have a Toolbox Talk in 2028. But anyways, having said that, I appreciate everybody participating today in this. We are going to be generating a survey tomorrow going out. It's a very brief survey. It's going to go to anybody registered for any of our Toolbox Talks. Please take it's literally a minute and a half, 2 minutes. You might even get an Amazon gift card out of it. Who knows? But we really do want the feedback, the good and the bad, to see if there's other things that people would want us to talk about. This is our last regularly scheduled Toolbox Talk until further notice, because again, that's what we're looking for, feedback. What would you like to talk about? Who would you like us to talk to? Do you know an industry expert that could come in and give us some insights and everything else like that? So again, thank you all very much. Lauren, Michael, really appreciate your time today. And everybody, please be safe. Reach out if you need any further information on anything we talked about today. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.